One bro, speedrunners, noobs, and leads. Welcome once again. It's the Idiot Gamer Podcast. Ladies and gents, welcome to episode 16 of the Idiot Gamer Podcast. With me, as always, is Andy Horatio Roberts.
Hello.
And Matthew Archangel Gabriel. No, I said Angel already.
I thought you were going to say R. Kelly, but... no.
That would be a terrible nickname.
It really, really would.
What's going on, folks? What is the deal?
Well, I've been playing a lot of Spiderman.
Oh, I've been playing a lot of Spiderman.
And I said in the last podcast that I wasn't going to buy it because I was going to wait till it got cheaper and I was going to play all the other games I've got.
Yeah.
And
we all caved.
Yeah, I bought it.
I caved very early. I saw it in the shop and I was like, yeah, screw it. Let's get some Spider-Man on the go.
The point at which I caved was when I opened up my PlayStation, looked at my friends list, and every single person was playing Marvel Spider-Man.
I reckon they've done pretty well out of the old Spider-Man.
Yeah, I always think about those games that are like platform exclusives and think, God, they're shutting off 50% of the market there, but I don't think they're going to have worried in terms of the amount of money they're making on that.
I think they're doing damn well.
There's a guy at work who actually borrowed a PlayStation and bought a copy of Spider-Man because he wanted to play it but didn't want a PlayStation.
Wow.
Well, I know somebody who bought a PlayStation.
What?
But to be fair, they were actually buying it for Red Dead Redemption.
Okay.
But they got it a month early so they could play Spider-Man.
For an added bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've all been playing a lot of it. I think you guys overtook me. I was nailing it and then I went on holiday and then you guys have all finished it in the meantime.
Yeah,
That will teach you to go on holiday.
I know it will, won't it?
Yeah, so I've completed it. I've platinumed it.
I have platinum trophied it myself. It's my first ever platinum trophy.
Mine too.
Do you know what? I wasn't
nice.
even going to bother with that, but then you said you were doing it, and I said, well, I'm not having that. I'm going to have to do it myself.
Before we get into any specific details, I want to know about the platinum situation.
Okay.
So what is required to get the platinum? Because there is like a lot of busy bullshit.
Platinum is always get all the other trophies.
Yeah, but there's no like mad trophies, are there? Like you must run every street in the city, or you have to.
It's the easiest platinum I've ever seen.
Because that's what I was worried about. Because Andy was talking about playing Arkham the other day. And I was like, fuck, there's this whole thing in Arkham with bloody, what do they call them? The Riddler challenges?
Yeah.
And you've got to do like 1,000 of the bastards.
I mean,
everybody gave up at that point. And there's a hidden ending behind those fucking Riddler things as well.
Really?
Sorry, I'm kicking the table. I'm trying to cross my
table.
legs.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I need to
do
take
that.
my-
I'm so angry at Arkham City's
I
trophies.
haven't taken my shoes off yet, so I'm going to do that.
That's some good radio content.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Hey, people like to know what's happening behind the scenes.
Breaking
You're breaking the fourth wall, yeah.
We're real people with real shoes.
With actual feet.
We use tables and everything.
I know. What a world.
Yeah, it's relatively easy to platinum. It's not, by which I mean, none of the tasks that you have to complete are technically difficult. But there's a couple that are tricky.
Yeah.
But there is a degree of grinding, isn't there, to 100%
absolutely.
eat of the districts kind of thing.
Yeah. I'd go along with that. It takes time and effort, but it's not unpleasant spending that time.
Yeah,
No.
Let's get into it then, because the way I played it is a lot of the way that I play all of these open world games is that I'll see firstly, I'll basically do all the collectibles. So the first thing I did was go around and get all the backpacks, which was quite good because it gets you used to the swinging mechanism and you can go around. And I found all those backpacks and that got me a free suit or something with some kind of power. So that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I realised that I hadn't even done like all of the missions that's supposed to lead you up to like open it up properly.
Yeah.
So the whole time, my little Spidey radio was going, you should probably go over there. You should probably go over there and do that. And I was like, I want to get the fucking backpack. Well, that's what I'm doing.
I found there was a little bit of nagging from the game to keep you on track with the story. Partly because it probably doesn't want you to rank up and level up too quickly, so that the bad guys are too easy in the early stages.
That's totally what I did.
I think it might be something else because I did similar to Sai in that I got a bit distracted by the side missions and collectibles. And there were points where the commentary that you're getting during the side missions doesn't correlate to what you've seen during the story missions. And I don't think they wanted you to do that, but they didn't want to spend too much time going, well, we have to have different voice lines if you're at that stage or whatever.
To be fair, managing a game of that kind of scale is probably really difficult. So they probably try and nudge you to do, because I had a couple of moments where things happened out of sync with so for example, and by the way, if you listen to this and you haven't played any of the Spider-Man game, there are probably going to be a few spoilers.
There's going to be
there.
massive spoilers.
Shall I do a jingle on the fly for a spoiler alert?
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
That was good. You'll have to clip that. But I mean, if and when we're going to do a big story kind of spoiler, we'll say. But as we go, there are going to be little bits and pieces of mini storyline spoilers.
I'm going to go deep into spoilers. So
but
basically, don't listen to me.
We'll flag those up when we're going to do it.
I'll just mute you.
But like the so one of them is at one point like non-playing characters, members of the public, turn like negative and they go, they've been taken over by the bad guy and he's going to come to attack me, and then you just got to beat them up just randomly out of nowhere. That happened to me 2 or 3 times before the story mission that explains what's happening to those characters happens.
Maybe you were just being such a dick that members of the general public were like, I need to beat on Spider-Man.
Probably, possibly.
That's possible.
No, that wasn't what happened though.
Have you collected all of the newspaper articles?
No, so that's
what? That's like what?
What?
so that's one, because I suddenly got about. So basically, if you all the way around New York, there are these kind of red boxes, which is kind of newspaper vending things. So you can go and buy a copy of the Daily Bugle, and the headline is different, and there are 26 different newspapers.
I think it depends on the region that you get them from.
No, they're all the same, but it depends on where you are in the story.
Oh, I see. Oh, does that mean that I've missed early ones then?
Yes.
I can't go back and get them?
Yeah.
That means
balls.
I was getting all excited because I thought I might be able to go back and play some Spider-Man and get some new content. No.
I mean, you can go back and play the story again and do them.
Have you all done the secret photo ops?
No, I haven't done the secret photo. I was waiting to get, because there's a suit that lets you see the location of all the secret.
Should we just quickly go back to the news?
Sorry.
Excited.
Because there was like a major panic thing going on, because I was like, shit, am I not going to be able to 100% this game because I wasn't getting the newspapers early on?
That's kind of what I was worried about when you guys were getting the platinums. I was like, am I going to have to do all that shit?
So that's the that's obviously why that isn't a trophy, because they realise that because there is it's time critical when you get those things for you to be able to do it.
Yeah.
They couldn't make it a trophy, and they couldn't make that part of 100% in the game.
But also, I missed that completely. I was not aware that even existed before you mentioned it.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
So the fact that it would be a bit harsh to like have it unless you were looking up, well, how do I get this trophy or whatever.
Yeah, and unless there was another way of going back and getting all of them in order or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the headlines on the front page of the Daily Bugle are directly correlated to the story mission that you have just completed.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Sorry, go on anyway. So
well, no, let's finish off the collectibles while we're talking about the collectibles. So I always think those things are quite good in games, like, because I quite like not like sometimes. Well, I've said this before. I quite like just be doing other stuff while I'm playing a game. So I might be listening to a podcast or something, and I quite like the idea of just being able to play the game, not have to listen too much to like story stuff. So I was just listening to podcasts, catching up on stuff while swinging around the city doing all the collectibles. And that was well enjoyable. I enjoyed the pigeons. I like getting the pigeons.
Don't get me started on those little assholes.
Go on. Let's get you started on those little assholes.
Right, okay. Spider-Man, it's excellent in terms of it gives you so much variation in terms of the collectibles. You can go and do stuff. It's really nice. If you get bored of one particular activity, you can go and do it.
Yeah.
But Jesus, there were some activities that drove me absolutely crazy.
And you didn't like the pigeons?
Spoiler alert, right? The pigeons are assholes. I hated anything where it was generally time driven in terms of you had to chase things a lot, and I got quite frustrated with that. Eventually, it got easier once I got some extra powers that let me zip around a little bit more. But I hated them. I love the pigeons. What really annoyed me.
So satisfying when you clamp down the L1 and R1. It's like zrup, and I get my little pigeon. It's well good.
what I found really irritating with them is if you hadn't done them, the pigeons have this sort of like area of influence. So if you fly through it, a pigeon starts flying. So I'd be in like trying to get somewhere and I'd accidentally fly through it, and suddenly the commentary starts going, "Oh, I'm going to have to chase after this pigeon," and I'm ignoring it. I'm just swinging off, and Spiderman's there bagging on, going, "Oh, well, I failed there. I haven't caught him," and I'm like, "You weren't trying to catch him."
Well, that's role playing, you see.
I hated it. I hated the pigeons. I also hated the research missions involving
gas.
No.
Collecting the gas.
Which ones did I?
Oh, the phone masts.
not actually. It was the Taskmaster ones. You know, the Taskmaster.
Some of them
challenges.
To be
It
fair,
was the ones where you had to chase drones.
Yeah, I wasn't very good.
That
at
was
them.
quite annoying.
Yeah, because you had to be quite accurate with the swinging, and I
did those quite late on, and I found it a lot easier because I tried one like early doors, and then later on I tried it, and it seemed really easy.
It was easier when I realised, spoiler alert, that most of those circles that you have to go through or that you try and get through are on.
They're on points.
Yeah. So you can do.
You can just zip to them.
Yeah, but it took me ages, and I did not enjoy that. And then there was one thing for the research towers.
Going back on the drones mission. So one of the trophies is you have to silver medal each one of the different types of challenge. So you've got the drone challenge, the bomb challenge, the thingy fighting challenge and stuff, and so you had to silver medal them. And I read. And I thought, oh shit! So I need to make sure I get all of these trophies.
Yeah.
I thought, oh shit! So there's a trophy, and I read on the internet that you had to get like spectacular level on those, and I'm like, oh well, I've only got ultimate level, so that's no good. So I'm going to have to. So ultimate level is basically the gold medal. Yeah. What I hadn't realised is the spectacular level was silver medal, and because somebody had made some kind of, so you needed a certain number of points, and I thought, well, I've only got that many points, so there's obviously a level beyond gold medal.
Oh,
so then
really?
I spent a good hour and a half, right, trying to nail this thing by getting the points up to so I spent ages and ages and ages doing it, and I got so close, but didn't quite get to the points that I thought I needed to get. And then I went back and checked it, and actually realized, oh wait, I've got this fucking trophy. And I looked back, and it was, spectacular levels of the fucking silver. Why don't they just call it gold, silver, and bronze? You bar. It was an hour and a half of my life chasing after a trophy I already bloody had. But I blame people on Reddit for not being clearer with
that. Is disappointing because the first time I did one of those Taskmaster challenges, I was like, this is a bit shit. I didn't really enjoy it. It was the bomb one, and I just found it a bit annoying.
I enjoyed those.
I just found I couldn't. It wouldn't let me land exactly where I wanted to land. So I'd land nearby, and then I'd waste seconds just like fucking around. And so by the end, I was just frustrated. And I was like, right, I'm just getting the basic level on all those things. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I've probably got to get a few more points. I silvered a few naturally, but I'm probably going to have to go back and do those.
Yeah. So a spoiler in terms of what you need to achieve, you need to have bought every suit to get a medal. And in order to buy the suits, you will need to silver medal every single one of those to have enough points to do it. And that's if you haven't spent too much on
other shit,
gadgets and stuff like that.
Otherwise, you'll have to grind to get the points.
Yeah, basically, you can only afford to get all of the gadget upgrades and all of the suits if you've got gold on everything.
I haven't really upgraded any of the gadgets, to be honest. I always forget to use them. I forget to use them. It's pointless.
Do you?
I use the same. I just use the regular web shooter all the time.
I found it a bit frustrating, and I understand why it did it, but I found it a bit frustrating that it defaults back to the basic web shooter.
Yeah, why can't you select the one and wait for it to recharge?
And just because on the basis that, I mean, I kind of know why it does that, but because it's all of a sudden you're suddenly without a power in a fight, and that would become a little bit frustrating maybe. But it meant I often was then forgetting to change back to the one of the more effective ones. Yeah. I had a period when I actually suddenly realised that actually, because it's super slows everything down when you're selecting. You can select your gadget mid fight, and I got quite slick at that by the end. But
you need to have enough time to do that. But
and then actually some of the very very later boss battles, you really really need to use that kind of thing quite heavily.
In fact, I think there's some of them that you wouldn't be able to do without. But But I'd
really,
recommend
I've almost finished it, and I've had no.
I mean,
issues.
the really, really, really end boss battles.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think I've got much more to go, have I?
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. The last boss battle.
Oh, okay. The last. Boss
I think there might be another one.
I think you've got a couple at least.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I really enjoyed it. It was.
Yeah. So onto the side missions then. Before we get onto the main mission, there weren't many.
There's 2 or 3 in each section, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean
they were quite. I thought they were quite throwaway, to be honest. The side missions.
Well, it's quite interesting that they decided to identify them as this is a side mission, and then go off and do it. Yeah, so because say for example in Grand Theft Auto, just another random open world game, the side missions, they will flag up on your map as a little exclamation mark, but they're much more incidental, and there are much more of them, and they won't be on. So if you're one end of the map and you open your map up, you won't see it on the other side of the map. They just kind of crop up in more incidentally. Whereas on Spider-Man, they just kind of make more of a big deal of them because maybe because there are fewer of them, but I think with those side missions, plus all of the other bits like the collectibles and the challenges and the photos and all of those things, there was enough peripheral stuff going on to keep you more than entertained and busy without just having to plow through all the story missions. So I think those side missions were just on the basis there's so many other things that you need to do. They don't actually need active side missions, particularly to pad the game out.
Yeah. They did feel like a little bit afterthought, to be honest.
I don't know. I really enjoyed the side missions. I always got excited when a new one appeared, apart from the pigeon one. The pigeon one I hated. But
I just don't really remember any of them. They all just sort of came and went for me. Like I don't really.
So there's one in Central Park, wasn't there?
With the woman,
with
the woman been spying on stuff.
Yeah. Then there's the ones at the
kids who'd gone missing.
Yeah, the ESU
like
ones where you go off and beat up all.
Well, I suppose one of them was a sort of half side, half story. The one where you go to the Halloween party.
Yeah,
that was pretty fun.
Yeah,
I did enjoy that one.
And then obviously there were lots of them stemmed on from that after that because all the students that had been negatived.
But I do wonder whether they've done that style of the way they've done side missions just to make it easier to add more in during DLC and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's possible. What is this DLC, by the way? Because there was a DLC that was like announced before launch.
It's going to be a Black Cat heist. So.
Oh yeah, because you never actually meet. Do you meet the Black Cat?
No. So a lot of it is
she scams you.
There are a bunch of stuff happening in this game that are teeing up for the DLC, aren't they? And I think that's definitely one of them. But they've announced the first one, or not announced it, but they've explained what's happening with some of them. But
it's not far away either. It's October.
Yeah,
so.
It's £15 for 3 sets, isn't it?
Okay.
They'll do episodes basically. Okay. There's 3 episodes. You get £15.
I'd be tempted.
I'm 100% in, and I hate.
You're anti fucking DLC. I should have that clip of you saying you never. Get DLC.
No, I'm all in because I was just sad when it ended. So.
Well, I mean, your beef with DLC is when people release half a game and then say, right, and here's £50 for the other half of the game.
Well, they definitely didn't do that.
And that isn't the case because it's absolutely a full game.
Yeah, it's a full game, and I want more of it when I finished. Whereas often I'll buy the DLC before I finished it, and then won't want to play the DLC by the time that I'm done with it. So, It was a full game that left me wanting more, which is the perfect thing for DLC. So.
Right then, what we're going to do, we'll have a little cheeky breakette. It's like a mini break. And then when we come back, we'll talk about the story mode and some of the other bits and bobs. Right, back in a sec.
It's not his last name.
It isn't?
No, it's not like Phil Spiderman. He's a Spider-Man.
There's one for the old school there.
Yeah, it seems sad that's actually old school.
I know.
All that stuff only seems like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Well, when I clipped that clip and I watched it, I was like, oh my God.
Well, I watched
the 90s was a long time ago.
I watched all of them back, and it's dated quite badly. A lot of the politics in that program is dated quite badly. I can believe
it. So moving on to the main part of the game, so the story modes, the story missions, and this was the thing that I think. Well, there were 2 big things, weren't there? 3. I'm going to keep adding them. There were
so many big things.
Of the things.
Yeah.
You had the swinging mechanic.
Yeah.
You had the fighting stuff, which we haven't talked about, which we should talk about, and then you had the story. And people were like, those 3 parts together make this a really good game. And I think that's right. And I think there were maybe some issues with some of the side missions and some of the collectibles, some of the bits and bobs, but those 3 core things were excellent.
Yes.
And so the story mission. You start off realizing that you are like a fully fledged Spiderman.
Yeah.
And you're going around doing your business. So there's no like, I need to learn to do this or I need to learn to do that. You can already do everything.
He's like he's been Spider-Man for like 8 years, hasn't he?
He's been Spider-Manning for
So
a
that
fair
must
amount
make
of time.
him, as they've dated him at 14 when he started, like I think in the latest films.
Okay.
So that must make him, what, 22?
Yeah, that's about right.
That's about right, yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, so and that I think is good because there's so many games where it's like you're doing an origin story or you're doing, you're building up, but it's quite nice to be like, I'm already doing the thing.
And they made a big point when they were in interviews about this game. They said, look, the origins of Spider-Man have been done 100 times now. Yeah. There's no point in us sitting down and boring everybody to death with him being bitten by the spider again because it's just been done. So let's actually just chuck you into the world as it's already going on, which was a good call, I think.
Yeah, it was, and they've managed to insert a bit of that origin story without actually
making
doing
it a thing.
Peter Parker side. So it's pretty good.
Yes, yeah, and so you're thrown in and you realise that you've got you've got Octavius, who's your friend at the start. And you can already guess what's going to happen with old Doc Ock.
I was really pleased that they dealt with the origin of Doc Ock.
Yeah,
because
I thought that was
it's
good.
a far more interesting one than Spider-Man is.
Yeah, it reminded me again of is it Spider-Man 2? The one, the film. It's fucking brilliant. That, and it's that actor, the British actor who plays Dr. Octavius in that. It's really, really good.
Molina,
Alfred Molina.
Alfred Molina.
He's fucking brilliant.
He is, and he's perfect for that role.
And I thought they stole a lot of him for this character. Definitely.
One of the things that I think they handled really well with that story, and this is the theme across the whole game, is the humanity and the personality and like the relationships, like Peter's relationships with all of the people are genuinely moving and like really, really, really well executed.
You feel a lot for Octavius, don't you?
I mean, I'll get back to Octavius in a minute, but what Andy's talking about there with humanity is like their characterization of relationships has just been phenomenal in that game. Yeah. There was one bit which I'm not going to go into because I know you haven't got there yet.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you haven't got there yet, where I was in tears. I like genuine tears. And I'll discuss this with Andy at some point. I don't think it's going to be the bit that he thinks it will be.
Okay.
It's around that same time, but it's not. Anyway, that's a bit vague. But Octavius, that origin story is one of the most... I would say there are two origin stories in comic books that are the most interesting. It's that, and it's Victor Freeze out of Batman.
Oh, okay.
Because both of them are...
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, can we forget that ever existed? Like, nice to meet you. It's like, always there.
There you go.
But both of them come from a place where they're trying to do good, and their whole intention in what they're doing is good. And there's just real tragedy in the fact that actually it turns them into these people. And both of those are like just the best villain origin story, probably even better than most of the superheroes. And the fact that they dealt with it so well in that, because they built up that sort of relationship with Peter, and even at the end, which again I won't spoil for you, there's still that bit of humanity left in him, and although he's using it against Peter at that point. So
one of the key things in terms of how the game was set up, and we discussed this before any of us had played it, but it's the fact that you spend not a lot of the time, but you spend a fair amount of time walking around as Peter Parker. And I remember we were saying, oh God, well, I don't want that. I want to be swinging around the city. And it was necessary for two reasons. And one of the reasons they gave was actually just because it breaks up the swinging around the city stuff, because otherwise you could get a bit too kind of, I don't know, just like a bit tired of that, because it would just be monotonous. So they've broken it up. But actually that's helped them with the characterization and humanization of those relationships, because actually it's about his relationships with other people, not just swinging around being a superhero. So I think that added a massive element of depth into the game. But one of the things that it did lead to is also they obviously had to find a way of making those Peter Parker bits an interactive game, if you like.
Yeah.
Which as a result, which is where you ended up with, and I think you mentioned them earlier, Matt, which is the little kind of sciencey side missiony bits and stuff.
I like those.
Like, so there's one which is like the pipe flow game, effectively.
It's effectively Pipe Mania, isn't it?
Yeah.
The circuit board thing.
And then there's the other one where you try and match the
I really like
spectrograph
those
thing.
little bits.
Yeah, I did. Little puzzles.
Yeah, I like those little puzzles. It gives you a little bit of time off, and I find them quite satisfying.
When you say time off, I got to one and then I just did all of them in one go.
Yeah, I did as many as I could. I think you had to unlock them or something.
Yeah, because you had to hit a certain... In doing them in the lab, you had some of them were locked off at a particular level, so you could only do them at a particular level. But they also chucked them in and around the game as well, like that. And that kind of thing was good just to break up the kind of the swinging around and web shooting and stuff like that. So I think that could have gone really badly wrong. Yeah. But it more or less worked.
I think they made them. I think they made those little puzzles satisfying to do. So that's why it was nice.
Satisfying to do, but not too difficult that they would.
Piss you off.
Yeah, piss you off, or possibly even ruin the game for some people who found them really difficult.
This is what I noticed in the options menu. You could turn those off. You can just say autocomplete puzzles.
Oh, really?
So if you were having a horrible time, you could just turn those off.
Yeah,
and it was the same with QuickTime events, which are one of my criticisms of the game. It doesn't stop me from enjoying it, but you could turn autocomplete on, and I was there were points where I was very tempted, but I felt like if I turned the QuickTime events off, they would feel like overlong cutscenes.
Yeah. And that's
Talking of those puzzles,
but that's why they do them, right? That's why they have QuickTime events. And it's the same with the
Plus,
Uncharted.
they look cool, and it feels all cinematic and everything.
But it's the same with the Uncharted games as well. They do them in the big cinematic bits so that you feel like you're still
contributing something to it. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of them particularly, but I think in this game they were few enough and far enough between, and they were simple and straightforward enough that actually they were pretty easy to execute. One of the things that I really find frustrating with QuickTime events in games is when the thing that you have to do is different every single time, so there's no way you can get any kind of reflex to do it. Whereas there were in this game, there's only like 2 or 3
you could
different
predict
types.
Usually it was bash square.
It's
so
like bash square, or sometimes you have to press R2 and L2 at the same time.
Those did me a few times to begin with when I was doing it.
And then there's the one where you have to kind of move the L stick into
and
the
then always
circle.
L1. Yeah.
And
that was like there was another game, wasn't there, where you moved the stick to give yourself another life. Like you were just about to die. You know what I'm talking about?
It was on the Wii, wasn't it, or something like that?
I'm trying to remember what it was. It might have been The Witcher, actually, where you got like a death chance, and if you just timed it right, you would bash the arrow away and then go
it got
again.
quicker and quicker each time.
Yeah, it was something.
It
like
might have been.
Fuck, I can't remember what that
it
was.
Wasn't the Lord of the Rings one, was it?
It was the Lord of the Rings one.
Yeah.
Yes, very nice.
But like
Shadow of what's name?
Shadow War.
Yeah.
And so in all the actions you have to do in the Spider-Man one were related to the type of action that you would have been doing in the game. So your reflex, your muscle memory, was to go to the same button. So all of that was done well, I thought. So to the point that I was actually happy that they were there in the game.
Yeah, I didn't mind him at all, and I do like him in a cutscene because, like you say, I think it's like otherwise I'm just watching a cutscene.
I think it's lazy in terms of there must be a better way to do this. It's just that game companies have become used to using QuickTime events.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't think that game is reliant on them at all.
No,
I think
indeed.
it's just helping to bridge the gap of the really long cutscenes. I think
you're right, and it didn't frustrate me to the point where it has done in other games, but I wish they weren't there, if I'm completely honest. But I didn't want to turn them off because I felt like I would be almost cheating the game a little bit. But I hate QuickTime events. I think there's...
But the best game in the world ever, according to you.
Has loads of them.
It doesn't have loads of them.
Fucking shit
It's
loads
like
of them.
it's not the second thing you do.
Press X to push box.
But it's like helicopter is falling out of the sky at me. Quickly jump left X.
Yeah.
Ready. Circle. Ready.
That is true.
I dislike them. I think games companies have to come up with something better. I mark down any game that has them, and they have to be spectacular to survive that QuickTime event for me. Luckily, Spiderman is.
I mean, at least you didn't end up with. There was one or two cutscenes towards the end that were like overly long that went on a little bit, but nothing Metal Gear Solid style.
Oh Jesus Christ, no!
Yeah,
and that's one of the things I'm not looking forward to with that Death Stranding game. That's going to be.
We'll talk about that in the AOB at the end of the thing. So I think all told, the story was pretty good. I like most of the characters. I was not as happy with Aunt May just because she was like a sort of older Aunt May, and I prefer the super hot Marissa Tomei Aunt May.
No, see, I prefer the older,
I'm
kind
with,
of
I'm with Andy on
the
this.
gentle, kindly old Aunt May.
She wasn't as old as the one from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films.
I prefer that rather than like the one from Spider-Man: Homecoming.
I like both. To be
Who
honest,
was the mum in? It was that Marissa Tomei?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Nice.
But I'm happy with either. But I thought they did a really good job with Aunt May. I thought MJ was fantastic.
MJ
the
was
relationship
good.
between her and Peter. Miles Morales' story is fantastic.
What do you reckon about her bits?
Well, that's what I was just about to jump in on. That's one of my.
Can you clarify what do I think about her bits?
Her gameplay bits.
So that was one. They were my least favorite bit of the game. So I
my
like.
least favorite bit were the Miles ones, because at least the MJ ones I felt had a point. The Miles ones I really thought were pointless.
Well, I was lumping them in together really because I mean I understand and I liked the fact that you were going off and doing other parts of the game, because it was extending the
I like the thing like this just happened earlier and it sets up. I quite like that.
And I quite like the idea of going into the bodies of the other characters to be part of
into
that.
their bodies.
Well, you guys, get your fucking minds out of the gutters. Jesus,
Stop
the
looking
pair
at her
of you.
bits and getting in her body.
Unbelievable.
Just
they're pixels.
No, I just thought it was a strange.
You
way
tell
to describe
Gamergate
it.
that.
Going into her body. I suppose so.
But the
playing
but
as
the
that character.
Yeah, but that actual game, the actual gameplay in those bits, I thought were a bit shit.
Yeah.
Because the like stealth, but really shoddily done. I thought they were really kind of thrown together. I didn't think.
I thought the Miles thing was like, how can he hack all this stuff like magically out of thin air? He can just hack stuff.
He said he's got an app.
Of course, he's got an app. Yeah, I know. I thought all of those were. Because they weren't very well executed stealth things. They're like a lot of them where you're having to distract the people and I was just fucking walking past them.
Yeah.
Like it was just wasn't they felt really, really, really kind of tacked on those bits.
I did enjoy them. I didn't enjoy them as much as most of the gameplay, but I preferred them to the quick time events. I was viewing those like cutscenes that you were like, because they were explaining that sort of thing through it.
Yeah.
And I preferred that as a route to do it. I also thought that the MJ ones got much more interesting when she got those distraction things from Spider-Man where she can like throw them and distract people.
Yeah, there were little bits of that though, slightly kind of drew me out of the game in terms of, and I don't want to talk about realism in a game like Spider-Man. But like there's a bit where you these little discs that are about like the size of like a £2 coin or whatever that you chuck and they make a noise. The person then wanders over to where they are and go, scratch. Well, there's nobody here. Rather than actually looking at the very visible device that you can actually see as you're walking past that's making the noise. So little things like that. Just
I mean, there is a lot of it. I mean, and I still, although I think it is a really, really good game, but there's a lot of it that is still just an Assassin's Creed game in another skin. There's no denying that. That is what it is. And I think, like you said, those are the bits that take you out, where you see the mechanic and you see that is just there for the sake of doing this thing. And that's when you're like, I could be playing any game at all at this point. And
a lot of the a lot of the mechanics of the whole game is the way the game's bolted together. I like the fact that, just by beating certain things you get tokens and you can spend tokens on things like just little things like that are so very heavily, look, I'm playing a video game but it was so much fun. Doing all of those things that none of that shit mattered at all.
Well, talking of that, I think one of the things that makes that is that, yes, a lot of the stuff is repetitive, and yes, it is very similar to other games like Assassin's Creed, but the thing that makes it, I think, is the fighting mechanic. Because whenever you get into those battles, it is really fun, and it is more in-depth, and it is like, you have more agency as the player, because you're like, I can influence how this battle goes, and you're not just Assassin's Creeding it the whole time. So when you get into those fights, I'm always like looking around, like, well, how much shit is there to throw? Because is it going to be a throw-in type of battle, or is it going to be a thing where I'm going to have to leap up high and then come down on these guys? Yeah. And you always end up with a strategy based on the environment, which is really cool.
I loved the ones that were on top of buildings. Yeah, I was almost always starting off with a bit of stealth, getting rid of about 5 or 6 of them, maybe like until I get spotted. Then what would happen is I'd go down and I'd generally just web people and kick them off the building.
Yes,
like
very
just
satisfying.
do the swing kick, just watch someone go flying.
Very satisfying. One thing that I would have liked is when you're doing any of the ones that had waves, because you're always alerted by wave 2. Yeah. Right? There's no way around it. I'd have liked it if I could have stealthed further.
I agree.
Because I think it would have been an awesome challenge to stealth all 6 waves.
Yeah,
that
I
would
agree.
Have been great.
And this is one of the things that I think is fucking amazing about this video game. It made me actively enjoy a stealth mechanic. Because I even games that are built on it, I just get I get frustrated with them really, really, really quickly. Even decent, well executed ones like Hitman or whatever. But I really loved the stealth ones in this. I really
love the way you could do the web up, which is pretty cool because you're like just sneaky web them up. But I love the web takedown because there can be a group of people. Some of them just happen to be looking the other way, like and then straight back up again. And you're like, you didn't see shit.
And then somebody might turn around and go, "There's a man down here." What's going on?
This fella's just gone down.
But what's brilliant is then one of them wanders over, the rest of them turn their backs again, and you get hit.
So good.
But what I loved, and they talked about this when everybody was doing the previews. They were saying, these are all these opportunities to kind of really be creative with kind of the fighting and the battle and how you set back. And I thought, I can't see how this will work, because having played like the previous Spider-Man games, which are just hit, attack, and they will do the game will decide how you do all the fancy stuff. Not only do you have agency to kind of be creative about how you attack people, like you're up in the air you're beating this person up in the air. Oh, look, there's somebody down beneath me. Okay, well, I'll do a kind of a drop down attack, or I'm going to pull them back up. And not only can you do all of that stuff, you have to be successful.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And that is absolutely key to the game. And
I'm playing it on the easy level, and it's still quite hard, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I played it on normal, and there are times where it is rock hard. Yeah, and you really, really have to actually make the use of all of the different options that you've got.
And that was something that I didn't believe you when you said it felt like he was underpowered, but he did. It was always a challenge. But then it should be a challenge. He's fighting like 20 people at a time. So.
Yeah, sure. And I think the save games for when you do die, and you do die, there's no way you're not going to die. Yeah. They're really quite forgiving, which I was happy about, because there's nothing worse. And GTA was really bad for this. Like, you would die at a key moment, and then it would put you back fucking miles in the mission. Oh fuck, I've got to do all that again.
The story missions were really good for that, because it's like you were just going, I hope I don't have to do this bit, and you never had to do that bit. It was like always up to the point that you were almost at. So.
I did genuinely feel that I was like, it wasn't that my character was becoming more overpowered. I knew how the fights were going, so I was doing better. When I fought who was it? When I fought Mr. Negative, which I just did this morning, that battle, I was in charge the whole time, because I knew how it was going to go. I was prepared for the different phases of his attacks, and I was like, right, I know I need to get up here, I need to go down there. But when we did it at the start against Shocker, I was all over the fucking place. Like, I didn't know when to go up, I didn't know when to go down, and I think it shows that there's a really like. The way that the game is put together and the way that you fight these bosses, you are naturally learning as you go through, which is really cool. Yeah.
There was one boss battle that I had real problems with, and that was the one with where there were 2 of them. It was Electro and Vulture.
Yes. I like that one.
Yeah, I liked it, but I had problems because of the camera angles and the fact that you were having to deal with people above you and below you, as well as sides. It was quite difficult to establish where people were.
Yeah, I kept on swinging and then mashing when I came past.
And that's because they turned the combat cam off. So because you could actually turn the combat cam off for normal fights if you wanted to. Okay. But actually, the game was really good at actually in fight modes, it's really good at placing the camera in a position. It wasn't perfect, the combat cam. Quite often you would end up looking at a tree, behind a tree, when there's somebody jumping down.
I didn't have that very often. It wasn't like Dark Souls level where it's always terrible.
Like I say, very occasionally, very, very occasionally. But
I very rarely got angry with the controls or the mechanics of the camera.
I never felt like I was failing at anything other than my own ineptitude.
I mean, that's the problem I always have with Dark Souls and Bloodborne, is that so many times you die because the fucking camera is shit, and that is only the sign of like a bad developed game. And people always like try and defend that as if, no, it's just really hard and you can't play. It's like, no, if I spin around and the camera shows me a clipped through fucking wall for 3 seconds, that's the game's fault. That's not my fault.
There were a couple of things that I think, in this is really nitpicking now, but there were a couple of things in Spider-Man where it didn't quite work for me. So again, in the later Sable agents that you're fighting, the ones with the backpacks and the fighting,
the flying fuckers.
Yeah. So because I use the triangle zip to the person to fight them thing. Quite a lot, and you almost have to use it against.
You do
have
to
guys.
Against them, yeah.
But those guys, it was, the game wasn't very good at identifying that was the person you were trying to zip to. I think it struggled with the 3D part of that, and so as a result, I'd be desperately pointing directly at that person, then it would go to the person on the ground near them. Yeah. So the minor quibble.
I started taking them out by just webbing them up and then like holding triangles, so I'd lob them and stuff. So that was quite a good way.
There's very satisfying the spinning people around once you've webbed them.
Speaking of nitpicking, and these aren't really criticisms because I actually laughed at both of these. But there were 2 bugs that I found.
Oh, really?
One bug was during at the end of the introduction where I was about to say Lex Luthor. I always get him and Kingpin confused. Yeah. Big bold fellas. But one of the NPC models just had his head sticking out of Kingpin's chest, which was quite funny. So he looked a bit like the guy out of Total Recall.
Wait, start the reactor. That guy.
But, the other thing was there's not a huge amount of character models for NPCs. Like, if you walk down a street, you will see the same person.
Yeah, I think if you ever go down onto ground level and walk around, you realise how much is repeated. I mean, it has to. Right?
And what it does is it randomises these crimes that appear, and it'll be either a kidnapping or it'll be a bank robbery or something. And they're all quite similar in terms of that. But I had 2 in a row of the kidnapping ones where you have to find a car, find the guy in the boot, get the boot off, let him out, and then you fight some crooks.
Yeah.
2 in a row, quite close together, and the character model in the car was the same person. So I was like, the second time I was like, this guy's been kidnapped again.
That's careless. Get your shit together.
And I was just like, stop getting yourself kidnapped.
That's like that woman in 24 that got like kidnapped 5 times in the same day, didn't she?
Right, if we're going on to 24, the biggest problem, I stopped watching it after series 1 because my mate lent me the box set. And when you watch all of the episodes in a row, it is ridiculous. Like there's one woman who like gets injected with heroin or something at like 3 a.m, and then by 1 p.m, she's totally back up and running around and stuff. So anyway, but I found those bugs a bit funny rather than game breaking. So.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the bugs. I saw a load of stuff on Reddit. Like I saw a ton of bugs. I did think, talking about those crimes, that is the grind for me of the game. Like, trying to clear out each area. And it's like I've got to do 12 crimes or whatever it is. When I was doing those, I was literally like, right, I'm knocking these off now. And I just knock them off one after the other.
Yeah. That was in terms of 100% in the game.
Yeah, I think you could ignore them if you were just getting through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That was it. It was just that became a bit of a grind, but. And it did become a bit of a grind, but I was still enjoying it. And this is what I think sets this game apart from, like, say, for example, Assassin's Creed, is that I find the actual story modes and what you're doing on a mission by mission basis in Assassin's Creed a massive grind. Yeah. Whereas I found only certain elements of the Spider-Man game, when you decided you wanted to 100% it, did it ever become a grind?
Yes.
And I think because one of the things that I tried to do, was actually I tried to play through in a kind of realistic manner. I wanted to immerse myself in a Spider-Man, so I didn't decide, right, today I'm going to do all of the backpack missions, today I'm going to do all of these challenges, today I'm going to do that. I wanted to try
take it as it comes a little bit.
Say, well, I'll do a couple of bits of swinging around and saving people and stuff, but that only lived up to a certain point. And as I got towards the end of the story, I realised that I was behind on a lot of that kind of stuff. So then I did a big long grind, but that was just because I wanted 100% it, right?
Yeah, I think the it is the sign of a great game when all of the side stuff is still fun and good. Because, like you said, with Assassin's Creed, I think if you played, certainly the last one, whatever it was called, and the new one, it's just coming out next week.
Aren't they the same game?
But basically, yeah. But I think if you played just the story and you only did the story, you didn't do any side shit, they're good. I think they're really good. They're entertaining. And they feel great to play, and they'd be a lot of fun.
Well, that's what I had with God of War. I had no interest in the side missions.
But it's a lot of money. I mean, God of War's long enough, but I think in the Assassin's Creed ones, if you spent 50 quid and you just played through the story mode, you'd have a good time. It's quite an expensive thing. So bang for buck, like with Spider-Man, you're getting so much more.
I agree.
Because you could just nail the story and that'd be great and it'd be done in 10 hours or whatever, like Assassin's Creed. But you can spend way more time doing all the other stuff that in Assassin's Creed is boring, but in Spider-Man is actually pretty good fun.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of it. And I remember when we were talking about the PS2 Spider-Mans from ages ago, it's kind of the point I tried to get across there is the fact that it's just fun being like, and this is helped by the swinging mechanic giving you like the freedom to actually feel like you are legitimately swinging because that's what they did in the first Spider-Man on the PS2. It was within your control. The whole thing was. And so the whole thing felt fun, and that made it much more immersive. It made it feel much more like you were actually Spider-Man in New York. And I tell you what, my next holiday is going to New York now. I've never been, and you see it on films and all of that stuff. But then being given the option to swing around to see all of those different things,
you're not going to be able to do that in real life.
This is what annoys me. I'm walking around town now and I'm looking up and going, I could get up there.
I'll go to web off then.
That's what always happens after you play Tomb Raider, isn't it? It's there's a bar along there. I could shimmy across there and then...
Right then. Any more on Spider-Man before we take a little break?
No,
we've gushed enough, I think.
I don't know if we've gushed enough because I haven't said that I think this game is amazing. Like in terms of There are problems with it. I hate quick time events. I hated the pigeons. I wasn't that enamoured with the stealth-like sections, but what they've done with characterization, what they've done with the storyline, the fact that it had like 8 villains in it, and yet it didn't feel like it was, when they put that into a film, it was like every single one was dealt with the level that they needed to be. And it's the swinging mechanics phenomenal. The combat is great, and the story is fantastic.
Best open world game since GTA 5?
I would say so. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I think we can probably.
I would say full stop. I wouldn't say since
better than
GTA
Skyrim.
5.
Get out.
Oh, hang on, yeah. Since Skyrim, yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
Right then, we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to be back with any other business.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Right, what else has been happening then? Because there's been a few interesting game-related bits and bobs, not least the latest trailer that came from TGF. I don't know what TGF stands for, but it's some kind of games conference thing that's been happening.
The Game
Forum?
Yeah, let's call it that. I don't think that's what it is, but we'll call it that. There was new trailers released for a bunch of stuff, including Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding. Andrew, tell me about it.
So it's very short, this trailer, isn't it? And it's just a little bit of it's actually a bit of dialogue, and it's introduced us, I think, for the first time to what a bit of combat might be like in this game. This is kind of big, kind of creature-y thing comes along, but then actually it stops short of showing what happens during the combat. Whilst lots of the imagery and kind of the footage that we've seen so far makes this game look kind of what's going on? It's so mysterious. It's so it looks bizarre and offbeat but I honestly think this game is going to be shit boring.
Yeah.
I think that we figured out that part of it is most of the game appears to be just walking around delivering stuff. So it's it's like
Paperboy.
An underworld Deliveroo sim. But then this big creature, this kind of big scary monster that you've got to fight. I'm worried about what the combat's going to be like for that. I'm not a big fan of combat and video games.
Was that trailer?
Anyway.
Was that in-game footage?
Don't know.
Because I mean, you had no idea what the fuck was going on. So if that was in-game footage, I don't know how you were supposed to know, because at one minute he's like fighting these things in the oil beneath him, and then, like you say, then there's this giant thing. Then he's got the little thing on his shoulder that's like flashing away.
Yeah.
And then he's got the baby in his little thing. I don't know what the fuck's going on. What are you supposed to do?
But I mean, I think
are you the baby, or are you the Norman Reedus?
You're not the baby, I don't think.
No, I wouldn't put it past him.
No, I mean, all of the teasings have been deliberately obscure and deliberately kind of, like unrevealing to try.
I like the one that was just him walking for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and that's why they're doing it. It's just to make idiots like us sit down and talk about their video game.
I'm not sure it is. I think they're just doing this because they think, oh, he's got a reputation for being a bit obscure and abstract, so let's make the most obscure and abstract game we can. And
But they're not really abstract, are they? Look back at fucking Metal Gear. It's just army bollocks.
Yeah, but it's army bollocks with weirdness in it.
Yes,
it's
but that's just badly written. It's not like it's some
I don't know.
genius
If you look
thing.
at that woman who like dressed in almost nothing in the last one, and the reason for that is she breathed through her skin. It's like, well done for like, you want to have a naked lady in there, so you make her only be able to breathe through her skin, and she'll suffocate if she wears clothes.
I think that's Quiet, isn't it?
There's one of the Metal Gear Solid games just talking about sort of gender politics. There's one where somebody makes reference to in a cutscene makes reference to the fact that this lady has a shapely figure and a bit of a wiggle on her bum when she's walking, and then you've got to try and identify, because she's then undercover as a guard, and you've got to identify it, and so you actually have to look for the one who's got the wiggly bum.
That's a basically stare at butts mission.
It's pretty fucking weird.
That is bad. What was that in?
I think it's Metal Gear Solid 2. I think it was the second one.
I don't know why people are in love with Metal Gear games. I've never really understood.
I enjoyed the first one, but that was about it.
Don't get it. I don't like stealth. Maybe that's part of the problem.
But Death Stranding, it comes across as, everyone knows that kid at school who thought he was a bit wacky. And because he thought he was a bit wacky, he would act like an absolute arse all the time. Everyone hated that kid. And this is the same with Death Stranding. I think it's the kid who thinks he's wacky, and so he's going to be as wacky as he possibly can.
They like the. I agree. They like the idea that they're creating this kind of this myth of this incredibly. But this is like breaking the walls. This is stretching video game imagination to its very limits. When what we're going to end up with is a very, very trad, boring kind of.
It's 100% marketing, isn't it?
Third person fucking walk around and occasionally get in fights.
All quick time events.
Just the whole thing.
Whole fucking quick time.
I reckon a lot of the battles just going to end up being hammer the buttons. Just hammer square, loads and loads and loads.
I don't know.
I love the way you think there's going to be any combat whatsoever.
Yeah, maybe no, maybe not.
Rubbish.
So, there's the last word on Death Stranding there. In other news, we're starting to come up to release season, aren't we? So things are starting to get released now.
Yeah.
But the big one that's scaring everybody off is Red Dead 2, which is coming out, I think, middle of October or early November.
20-something of October.
Okay, and that is scaring off a lot of other releases. But I think there's other stuff coming out, like Black Ops.
Yeah,
Blops 4 or whatever the fuck it is. And I saw the advert the other day. This is why I bring it up, because it showed the advert and it has like Marines running around shooting each other and shit, and then flying at the screen it's like multiplayer, battle royale, zombies, and I was like, what? That's it, is it? Yeah. Is that what people want now?
But that is them just saying what has worked and been successful in online combat
in the
last year, however many, and they've picked out Battle Royale's the new one.
Yeah.
Zombies worked really well for one of the Call of Duty games, and then also worked really well with Red Dead with its extended content.
Yeah.
And they've just picked up a bunch of the stuff that people have done to some success and just bolted all of them into one video game. Such a fucking massive lack of imagination.
It's very cynical, isn't it?
They're not even that well done. So I watched some people play the beta of the Black Ops Battle Royale, and it just looked terrible in terms of they'd taken everything. Like PUBG had clearly been their defining base rather than Fortnite, so a lot of the fun had gone out of it, and it was like land do as much collecting as you possibly can, and then die within like 3 seconds because someone shot you in the face. It just looked bad. So I'm out, because the only reason I would have bought that game is if the Battle Royale was any good.
It is Treyarch, though. I thought it was. I just double checked. It is Treyarch, and they were the ones that generally have done the good Black Ops games.
But the thing is, this is going back to the first Call of Duty Black Ops. Well, the big thing, I mean, obviously Black Ops is like, this is all of this kind of like, it's non-officially recognised kind of like subversive and unacceptable.
They're beyond the
stuff.
government.
Yeah, stuff that the military of like, Western superpowers do that they didn't ought to be doing, and they're off the radar, and they're not because they're so secretive and stuff like that. But it was just a fucking Call of Duty game. I was actually excited to like, maybe there's some really kind of like some espionage, no, it's just a fucking
all that happens
shoot
is,
a load of people.
Yeah, it's all the usual Call of Duty, and then it goes to a cutscene. At the end of it, the guy's like, "And this never happened." And then that's basically
it.
So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but that's not very exciting. Is it?
Just talking about Battle Royale mode, I played. There's a new game. I think it might. No, I don't think it might still be in beta. I'm not sure, but there's a new game that's on the PlayStation Store. It's a free-to-play thing. It's called Z1H1 or H1Z1.
H1Z1.
That's a very old one, isn't it?
Well,
it's been out on the PC forever.
So
it's relatively new on the PlayStation.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure that PUBG was a mod to that on the PC, and that's where it came from. So
okay, interesting. Well, they've got a Battle Royale mode on the PlayStation now. Played maybe 10 minutes of it. It's just PUBG. Yeah, it's shit.
Did it seem very old-fashioned?
I'm expecting that PUBG won't sue them, considering they were a mod to that originally anyway.
But it was fucking rubbish.
Another game that's out this week is the next instalment of Life is Strange. I really enjoyed the first one, but what I've decided now is that I don't need to play it. So I'm just going to watch somebody stream it.
Yeah.
Because I don't really need to play it. Program.
Yeah, exactly. But I do like what they're doing with that, and I think it's pretty cool. But I don't feel the need to play it. So I was watching. Shout out to Eurogamer Video Teams. I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was just watching them do it, and I'm just going to watch them play the game. Another release this week, which has been getting slammed on the nets, is FIFA 19.
Yes.
It's getting a right royal slamming.
That's because all football games are shit, and they're the same as the ones that came out 20 years ago.
Well, I think people know that, but I think they're even those guys are pissed off this time because it's bugged. It's got a few major bugs.
They've also introduced something called timed shooting, and I'm not sure what that is.
What the fuck is timed shooting?
I don't know. I was just getting a little bit distracted by the fact.
Is it now like the 5 yearly changing of hands where everybody starts playing Pro Evo again, and then play Pro Evo for 5 years?
I mean, Pro Evo
will be the one that
I think that there's a weird release cycle thing, because Pro Evo would always release their game like 3 or 4 weeks before FIFA, and I guess that's in an attempt to say people that are desperate for a brand new game, let's get the game.
Yeah.
But they still don't have the licenses, so you're still not getting the license stuff on PES, which is annoying.
But you can patch it really quickly and easily these days.
You can, but it's still not quite right, And at the same token, by releasing that a little bit early, there's a bunch of people that will wait to get FIFA. And they'll buy FIFA regardless. It would almost be better, I think, in reverse, where you wait for FIFA, people realise it's a shit one, and then they might buy PES when it comes out.
But it wasn't that long ago. It was the other way around, though.
True.
So,
very true.
It's entirely plausible, but who cares?
I would love PES to get the licenses, to be honest. I think that'd be pretty cool.
I'm moving more towards Andy. I've not enjoyed a football game, a FIFA or Pro Evo for many a year, really.
I do like well over 10 years since I bought one of those.
I do like playing the football on the game console.
I don't find it very boring. They still haven't found a way of actually making it feel vaguely natural.
No. That's what I'm always hoping for. I think that's the holy grail, isn't it, for the football game fan? They're waiting, and that's why they keep buying them year after year, because they're like, maybe this one.
Because they have the animation where like somebody will control the ball and then kind of like turn and like drop his shoulder and run down. But you got to the point where they're getting so good at those little animations that the second your person's receiving the ball, you lose control of that person for half a second whilst they carry out the animation. I hate them. I really hate them.
The only way I would ever get into a football game again, I think, is if I had 10 other mates who owned the same game and you could play each as one player on that pitch.
You can do that with one of the FIFA modes, but you need to get all those players together.
Yeah.
Because
See,
Dr.
that would
Benji
be
did a really
interesting.
good series. If you go back to his old stuff, he did a series, I think it was on another YouTuber's channel actually, where him and his mates all get together and they play as a team. And that is very funny.
Bit of that this year because he redid it with like FIFA 18 or something. And I didn't enjoy it as much as its Football Manager content.
Oh no, sure, but it does look like quite good fun if you get a big group of people playing. Mainly because it's a shambles, you know.
If you could get 11 of you and you all had to play as that position, granted, whoever's in goal is going to have a horrible time. But
well, you play with 10 people in Avenue as a goalkeeper, but that kind of thing. But that's no longer the game itself being fun. That's the experience of playing online with people being fun.
Right, Matt. Another game that's going to be coming out in October. Will you be purchasing Soul Calibur 5, 6?
No.
6? No? I thought that might be enough to get you back into the old fighty games.
I'll see what it's like in terms of. I'm hoping there'll be a demo or something that I can
maybe
try.
Yeah.
If there is, I'll try it.
Because I thought that might be quite good fun online thing.
Yeah,
you know?
I did love
Andy
the originals, but
it.
I've lost all interest in fighting games because that's all there is to it. It's like one-on-one fighting, and I'm just like, but with Spider-Man, I could have the joy of fighting and swinging through and all this extra stuff. So
Spider-Man's over now. Control yourself. It's over.
There's DLC out next month.
There is DLC.
But I mean, we talked about it when we did the World Cup of video games, weren't we? We were talking about Street Fighter 2. And I think it was you that made the point that Street Fighter no interest in playing a fighting game anymore. So it's important as Street Fighter 2 was at the time. That's just it's a dead format.
It does feel a little bit like a dead format. People were getting excited about what's the Nintendo Super Smash
Brothers.
Again, not bothered.
Do you get to play as Toad in that?
People have got very anti-Toad now, haven't they?
Why is this?
Poor old Toad.
don't know
We're
why,
not talking about it.
Okay.
And on that slightly round-headed bombshell, we shall call it quits for today. Thank you very much, gents, for your love of the Spider-Mans.
Love the Spider-Mans.
And next time we'll be back to all the other games and maybe some of these new releases we've been talking about just today. So, Andrew.
Bye.
And Matthew.
Laters.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll catch you next time on Idiot Gamer. In the meantime, catch us on idiotgamer@gmail.com. Catch us Idiot Gamer on Instagram and Twitter and all those other places. Otherwise, see you soon. Bar weep grana weep ninibon.